So you know that the news media is 100% bought by Big Pharma. Like the news media, 70% of the news is funded by Big Pharma. And so you're getting 100% propaganda when you watch the news media to get any news about Big Pharma or COVID or any of that stuff. That's why we have a show, because we show you the lies that the pharma-funded media are either telling you by commission or omission. And they're definitely scaremongering the shit out of everyone about COVID. And Lex Fridman interviewed the head of Pfizer. But before I get to that, I want to remind you of how much they sponsor the news.
Is brought to you by Pfizer.
CBS Health Watch sponsored by Pfizer.
Anderson Cooper 360. Brought to you by Pfizer.
ABC News Nightline. Brought to you by Pfizer. Making a difference. Brought to you by Pfizer.
CNN Tonight. Brought to you by Pfizer. Early Start. Brought to you by Pfizer. Friday night on Aaron Burnett Out Front. Brought to you by Pfizer.
This Week with George Stephanopoulos is brought to you by Pfizer.
This weather report brought to you by Pfizer.
Today's countdown to the royal wedding is brought to you by Pfizer.
And now a CBS Sports Update brought to you by Pfizer.
Meet the Press Data Download brought to you by Pfizer.
This portion of CBS This Morning sponsored by Pfizer.
On how to find the hidden sugars in the American family diet. Sponsored by Pfizer.
So that leads me. So they pretty much have a firm stranglehold on the news media, and they'll do whatever they want. So this is this guy Lex Fridman. I don't know anything about him. He's certainly a super smart guy, and he I guess he's after his podcast he goes and does a recreation of Men in Black. And
he's a Men in Black alien.
Yeah. So
he's a friend of like 3 different friends. This guy. He's a nice guy. He's not a bad-hearted guy at any level.
He seems like a great guy, but he also seems like he's an artificial intelligence robot who just passed the Turing test, so he doesn't understand illogical human things like lying and conflicts of interest, and I'm going to prove it to you. Watch this. This is fun.
I'm now in Austin, Texas. My good friend Joe Rogan, he's been highlighting to me this aggressive marketing on mainstream media channels by Pfizer. So let me ask a general marketing question. Do you see this as a conflict of interest? Is it my bias, the reporting of news? That a lot of people, me included, look to these mainstream channels of news for kind of authority of like what the heck's going on in the world. And if Pfizer is sponsoring many of these shows, there's a worry. It may be a perception thing, but there's also a natural worry that it would influence what they're talking about because they're afraid of losing the sponsorship. It's subtle, but
it's not subtle. So I don't know what definition of subtle he's working off of, but it's anything but subtle.
It's subtle, but I consider Pfizer to be my best friend on this earth right now.
So anyway, here we go.
It might have a serious impact. Do you worry about this?
I think people could go one way or another because of multiple reasons. From our perspective, I don't think we have aggressive marketing.
They don't have any aggressive marketing. Are you aggressive marketing? Come on. We bought the entire U.S. government regulatory process. You mean like that kind of aggressive marketing? Why would we need to advertise? Come on. I mean, we do advertise, though. We do because, well, but that's not aggressive so much as, all-encompassing. It's more of an all-encompassing marketing strategy. This is awesome. Okay, here we go.
What we do, we go on TV and we are having ads about our products, and they are highly regulated. I think it is.
He's talking about the ads are highly regulated. Okay, that sounds good. Like, oh, good. So there's some safeguards around the ads and everything. Do you know that the rest of the world doesn't allow that? Like, not only do you know why the rest of the world doesn't regulate their pharmaceutical commercials? Because they don't allow pharmaceutical commercials. That shows you how corrupted big pharma money is with our regulatory agencies and our government. The only other country that allows it is, I think, New Zealand. No other country in the world besides that. Why are you marketing to customers? Why would you? Here's a question I wish Lex would have asked. Why in the hell are you advertising for prescription drugs to anyone who isn't a doctor? Why would you be doing that at all? And why is it illegal? I don't care with what regulation, but around the rest of the world, they consider it insane and illegal. But he stares like, oh, we do it. Watch how he keeps talking about how they're doing it right.
The right of people to know, to learn that if there is a product like that, it's very clearly that we cannot say things that they are off-label, that have not been approved. We need to have, every time we go on TV, as you know, FDA is forcing us to say also all the bad things that can happen for a medicine. Sometimes that takes more time than the good things. And I don't think that we are doing aggressive marketing.
No.
No. People could be influenced and can be biased in the podcasts or in the other type of media activities that they have for multiple different reasons.
Yeah, I know.
Did you see Lex? Like, whoa, I didn't see. You're going to say that people are biased on podcasts and that's somehow equivalent to the $400 zillion you spend every day advertising and buying the media? Go ahead.
Did you say, so he's explaining how it's very like, we have the ads and we have to say the bad things and sometimes it takes a long time to say all. And we found that people are numb to it after you do it over and over and over again. And it doesn't cause...
Yeah, we find that people just ignore that stuff. They make jokes out of it. Like
we show a guy cleaning a boat. He just got a boat. And
we see two people in bathtubs holding hands. We make the term anal leakage a punchline. So watch. It's just... See, Lex, the payments that they make to the media... they aren't there to stop their investigating. They those people, they work for us. Why would they need to pay them extra not to criticize big pharma? Right? They're not paying them extra for that. They're more like corporate bonuses. You know what I mean? They're not really payments to stop
keep up the good work.
That's right. It's more like, hey, you're doing great work already.
But it's pressure. It's human nature. I mean, one of it is perception, but I worry about it too. I have a ton of sponsors for this podcast, for example, and none of them ever asked me to anything. They're just, I think likely that kind of pressure is not happening from Pfizer, but there's implied pressure sometimes.
Sometimes?
And I worry about that a lot because, I look at academia. Like I look for the good in people. I tend to believe most people are good, or...
I like how little eye contact this guy can make with his interview guest.
Yeah.
He almost at no point does he look him in the eye. It's very brief, and then he's right back out again. All right.
Did you see in the beginning, he goes, yeah, I know.
Yes. Yes.
I know.
Guys. Have the capacity to be good and the desire to be good. When I came to MIT, I was a little bit...
shy. I wouldn't look people in the eye.
Maybe heartbroken. How much pressure... I think unjustified pressure people felt from financial constraints. Especially at MIT when there's, I think, a lot of money. People still felt constraints. And it wasn't bringing out the best in them. They weren't supporting each other. They weren't loving each other, like celebrating each other's successes. I don't want to blame money on everything, money constraints, but when you have sponsors, it just, I personally worry that it doesn't bring the best out of people. And so I feel like I want to put some responsibility on sponsors and great big companies like Pfizer to kind of not get in the way of the best of human nature, whether it's sponsoring podcasts, mainstream media.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to guess his next line, Albert Bourla. Gee, Lex, you sound depressed and you suffer from social awkwardness. You should ask your doctor about Paxil.
So it's just, I sure know, I mean, I sure nobody tells this innocent robot Lex about war or the military-industrial complex with all his... I get that because he might just turn on humanity and put us all in the Matrix. That's what I think is going to happen. Okay, here, watch this. Here we go.
Like, I don't know, athletes, whatever.
Yeah. You need to know that we are so careful
They're
with
careful.
sponsorships. First of all, we have very few, very few. We have a team that for every...
They do very few sponsorships.
Very few.
Very few.
Why do you do any?
What? What do you do? First of all, that's bullshit. That's 1,000% bullshit. 70% of the nightly news is Big Pharma sponsored.
Yeah, we only do 6 companies. The 6 companies that own all the news.
That's right. We only
it's
do
a low number because of monopolies.
Yeah. 6 companies, 5, depending on how do you want to count it. So here we go.
Single one could be $2,000. They will try to see if there is a conflict of interest in the way we do it, and also what is the reputation of the persons or the programs that we are sponsoring. So,
what is reputation? Does he have a tendency to look down in a way when he's talking to me? Then we say yes to the.
So he's pretending now that the problem is that they might put a sponsorship on a disreputable platform. That's not you're the disreputable fucking person here, not the platform. You're the one who's corrupting the platforms. And he's going, we make sure it's a platform that is going to be influenced by our money. And if they're not, we don't give it to them. That's what he's really saying. And, I want to apologize for all the robot jokes about Lex, because he is clearly a sweet, innocent robot Johnny Five style. And I don't want his shoulder laser to activate. So there's more to this.
I think our friend, was from Texas.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't.
Joe Rogan, yes.
Yes. I don't think he got it right that we do those type of things.
He got what?
In terms of like having a negative effect on...
Not even having aggressive sponsorships. We have very few.
Aggressive?
Yeah, when you
very
put
few.
them all together.
And most of the sponsorship that we have, it is more on patient-related organizations,
right?
Rather than we are very careful not to sponsor other things that can be perceived, not even influenced, but perceived that we may influence. So we are very, very careful on that. This is not the case with us.
She's very careful. So no problems. No problems with us buying the news media. None at all. In fact, he's such a good CEO. CNN gave him their CEO of the Year award. No problems. What's the problem? I don't know. Oh, by the way, there's CNN lying about Joe Rogan and ivermectin. Isn't that funny? And their doctor went on Joe Rogan and admitted they were lying. So he won't. So Pfizer's not going to sponsor Joe Rogan, but you will sponsor CNN, which is lying constantly. And again, here's NBC. You want to see NBC lie? I don't have to play this for you, but they do. I played this a bunch. I'll play it. Here we go.
Let's bring in NBC senior medical correspondent, Dr. John Torres. Dr. Torres, good morning to you. As Kathy mentioned, that new poll finds about 2/3 of parents are hesitant to get their kids.
So 2/3 of parents are hesitant to get their kids the vaccine. I'm going to dress like a lumberjack so I don't look like a shyster who's trying to sell you a used car. But watch what he does. Watch how he scares the shit out of everybody. Now, just so you know, children... young children have less of a risk from COVID than they do from the flu. But watch how he puts it.
This shot. What is your advice to alleviate some of their concerns?
And Joe, you're right. There is that hesitancy to get the shot, and it's a hesitancy that parents typically have because they're very protective of their child. A couple of things I tell them is, one, from a community perspective, children right now are 25% of the cases that are out there. That's from a community perspective, but parents are more worried about their own child. So here are some numbers for their child. Last week, 118,000 children ended up with Pfizer. Since the pandemic, over 8,000 have been hospitalized, a third of those in the ICU, and unfortunately, there have been 146,000 deaths, which according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, puts COVID now in the top 10 causes of death for children.
So that's all lies. Made up.
And so I would say, look at those stats because it's important to understand that if your child gets COVID, that could be devastating with lifelong consequences.
Can you believe this shit? That's crazy. And then, of course, people watch that and they downvote it. 5,000 downvotes to 600 likes. 5,000 dislikes. That's why YouTube got rid of the dislikes. Don't be a fucking chump. That they didn't get it because they want to help younger creators. They did it because their big advertisers are getting ratioed to shit when they do a story about them. So there you go. By the way, and here's the again mainstream establishment news lying. Why would the Rolling Stone do gunshot victims left waiting as horse door? So that was a complete bogus story. Here's Rachel Maddow. She pushes it too. She's brought to you by Pfizer, I'm sure. So that was quite an interview. I don't know who Lex Fridman is. He seems like a great guy, and I hope he doesn't get too upset.
He seems like way too nice of a guy.
Yeah,
I want to sell him, cryptos and shit now.
Yeah, he seems like way too nice of a guy to be doing that kind of interview, but I'm glad he did it. It was entertaining as shit for me. Hey, come see a live Jimmy Dore show. We're in Los Angeles, January 7th and 14th. Then we're in Raleigh, North Carolina, and Philadelphia. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all tickets and become a premium member to get access to all our premium videos.